Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another, granted very late, Witcher lore episode. Last episode we looked at the ghostly spectres, but today I figured it'd be a good idea to look over the hybrids of the Witcher world and bring in the old videos I've made on the Griffin, for instance, up to the quality of my new ones. I'll be going over the general hybrids that exist, excluding the Harpy because I've already made a video on them which I think is good enough and up to date enough to not need redoing, so I'll leave a link to that down below in the description. But without further ado, today we'll be looking at the Griffin, the Cockatrice, the Siren, and the Succubi. Firstly, what are hybrids? They are creatures or monsters that possess the traits and the appearance of more than one animal, being half and half and looking like some strange, twisted beings out of a fairy tale and some others from nightmares. Hybrid is not their official name, it being given to them mostly because it seemed the easiest way to sum up all the monsters that shared the one singular trait of being a mix of two creatures. That being said, some of these creatures are older, some are wiser, some are driven by more primal instincts, and it's a very mixed bag compared to other classes who share so many different similarities. As to when they became a part of their current world, some say they appeared during the conjunction of the spears, while others argue that they have been around long before the event even took place, and that argument will continue on for centuries. These monsters look and act like the crossbreed of a massive cat and a predatory bird, inhabiting mountainous regions and many wild areas generally far away from human settlements and other monsters. They are hunters by nature, soaring through the air while gazing below at the ground for prey, often going after livestock and even a few unfortunate people. Massive and terrifying beasts, they have a giant wingspan that can create enough force to knock down horses and crush the bones of lesser creatures. Their beak is sharp and deadly, easily tearing and ripping through flesh, and even being capable of bending metal blades and piercing steel armor. They are also very territorial creatures, defending their nests fiercely and to the death, being a proud monster that will not give up easily to any who trespass or seek to harm them. And as the world grows, as trade routes become more expansive, as wars rage on, forcing people to flee to more remote areas, the Griffin becomes more of a threat, although not at its own fault, similar to most monsters whose once expansive world is being tightly closed around them, meaning that the Griffin would generally try and avoid humans, but seeing as how it doesn't really have a choice anymore, it tends to be more common for it to attack people rather than livestock and woodland creatures as it normally would. They are very fast and very dangerous monsters. While fighting them, you must be wary of their swoops from the sky, from which they will come down fast with their talons drawn and their high-pitched roar that will knock their enemies off balance. They will also leap from a distance, lifting their wings into the air before striking forward and causing massive bleeding effects. Use Quinn or a swallow potion to combat it. If mid-flight, you can use Ard or a crossbow bolt to force them back to the ground, making fighting them actually possible. Striking at its sides is the best area as it is undefended and easy to inflict large amounts of damage behind the wings. Just remember to go in only for short bursts and pace the fight very carefully and slow. Explosive bolts are also useful once the Griffin is grounded. Remember to coat your sword in hybrid oils, and a northern wind bomb can freeze them in place, leaving them very vulnerable. As to whether this creature is a drachnid or a hybrid, it is a little blurry, but the official book has them classed under hybrids, so I'll assume that's true. Either way, it shares enough traits to be either one as far as I can see. They are commonly mistaken of being capable of causing death or petrification with a gaze of its eye, similar to that of a basilisk. But that is, as the book says, complete bollocks. The Cockatrice's gaze is no more dangerous than that of an enraged turkey, which I think is just a brilliant fucking line. Its beak and its sharp tail is where the real danger lies. It uses both to a deadly effect. Even younger specimens are extremely dangerous, preferring to ambush from behind their enemy, attacking the base of the neck and left kidney near the attora. A fully grown cockatrice is far more aggressive and confident in facing their foe head on, and will use both its wings and tail to wear them out, landing the final blow normally at the victim's neck or eyes. They live in dark caves, abandoned ruins, old dungeons, and cobweb basements, often flying around the wildlands in search of prey. Fighting a cockatrice is tricky, as it is said they combine the speed, flight and aggressiveness of a harpy and the power and might of a golem. They fight like lightning, striking madly from the air with their talons. You must make sure you ground them quickly using Ard, a grape shot bomb and maybe a crossbow bolt. You can also dodge their aerial attacks by rolling out of reach, and eventually they will come down to the ground themselves to try and tackle you. However, unlike the Griffon, the cockatrice once grounded is at its most dangerous. It will use its razor-sharp beak and tail tip to attack fast from a fairly long distance that will hit you accurately and cause bleeding. Again, use Quinn or a swallow potion to counter the effects. If you try to keep your distance from the monster, it will do little good, as they leap forward constantly to keep you close and within range to strike you. Be very careful, as their landing leaps can stun you as well. If you manage to land a few hits, it will often cover its head with its wings. You must not attack while a cockatrice is doing this, as it is basically a parry and you will do little to no damage. You will also become staggered, it will break Quinn, and they will quickly follow up with a counterattack. Best chance to defeat these monsters is to flank them, hitting them being most effective behind their wings and down their back. It has no defense from there, and with some careful footwork you can stay behind its attack range, dealing massive damage very quickly. It is also good to mention you should coat your blade in draconid oils, and I think hybrid oils should also be effective too, along with Igni. One of the most interesting monsters, not only from the Witcher lore but also from our own mythology, a Siren is a hunter and a temptress. They lure men to their deaths from their boats by using their bodies as decoys, transforming into beautiful maidens with long silver-scaled tails and often golden hair. Once a desperate and idiotic sailor gets close enough to the creature, their faces flash from beauty to horror. They become gaunt and thin, their mouth filling with rows of fangs, their tails, once promising unknown delight, suddenly turning into deadly, death-dealing weapons. Funnily enough, old fables tell that Sirens and Lemirs were once friendly towards men, supposedly known, although very rarely, to accept sailors' clumsy attempts at courtship. However, they now are aggressive, angry beings, some saying that numerous kidnappings of their kind by desperate sailors led to their hatred of men. But no matter the reason, they are now dangerous creatures who have no goodwill towards humans, and there have been no cases of such for many years. They live within the oceans, hunting in groups with their most dangerous cousins, the Lemirs, using their numbers to overwhelm enemies along with their ability to move swiftly and gracefully through the water and air. They inhabit many areas of the land, largely around the Skellige Isles and anywhere close to water where they may find their victims. They use their numbers to their advantage and are the type of enemy to swarm their foe, attacking from the water and from the air. You should use Ard, a crossbow bolt, a grape shot bomb to ground a Siren. They are also weak to Igni as well as many other flammable bombs. Countering Sirens is difficult but possible even if they dive from the air, and if successful you will be able to ground and severely wound them. And like Harpies, once grounded they are almost defenseless, easily finished off with a single stab, but when injured they let go a loud shriek that can stun their attackers, allowing them to escape and for their sisters to attack from above. And remember to also coat your blade in hybrid oils if possible. The Succubi are a race of creatures, being that of a half goat and half human. They are lustful and seductive beings, often being called a demon, but unlike Sirens they have no ill will towards men and do not seek to harm them. At least not most of the time anyway. They draw their energy from the men that they bed to sustain themselves, and often to the point of exhaustion or even death of their victim. They first appear in men's dreams now and again, and then physically appear to them or to those who have already come of age. and funnily enough there is also a male counterpart called an Incubus, although you never get the chance to see any in the game, which is strange, but that's how they did it. They tend to live close to human settlements, coming out mostly at night to seek men and women for help to feed their never-ending lust. They have little to no control over their desires, which are insatiable, and some even regret the loss of those they have overused. The Succubi are a strange race of creatures because they don't seek to harm people in the same way that most monsters do. It just happens because of the way they are driven and how they need to stay alive. They're almost like a sex vampire. Most of the time it is better to talk a succubus out of combat, many tales being told of witches seducing a succubus and then allowing them to flee a region where they have been hunted by the common folk. If ever a witcher should attack one, be ready because they are surprisingly capable and backed up by a lot of brute strength. Some are even well-versed spell slingers, using fire to disrupt their attackers from which there is no defense save Quinn or frantically rolling away. The key to defeating them is to be relentless. You must never let the succubus control the battle. Use Ard explosive bolts to interrupt their spells, along with a northern wind bomb which can help freeze them in place for a while. Pinning down the creature and landing a fury of quick, precise attacks is the best way to deal with these beings. But like I said earlier, talking your way out is generally the best option. Thank you all for watching this video. I know it's taking a long time to get these out, but I've decided to move on from making 5-minute videos to making them about 11-12 minutes because it tends to feel a lot more like an episode and you get a lot more information in and it feels more like a more complete experience, I guess, in my opinion anyway, because then you actually get to have a lot more variation inside of one video, which I like in particular because it means it's funner for me to make rather than just having to stick to one thing that is short and then knowing I have to make another one, basically start it the next day, because the scripts for these take forever, and then just adding everything together, it's like you have to go to a certain place to record a certain thing, you have to make sure you're at the right location for the creature, you have to make sure you get the right shots in order for it to make sense in context with what I'm talking about, and then you have to make sure you get all the information right in terms of what everyone has and what they're all doing, and it's just a lot of fucking research, and it's really I'm not gonna say it's really tough, because it isn't tough, it's just time consuming. And the problem is that time is something I don't have a lot of at the moment, so this is why the video has taken 2 months to make, but hopefully it's worth the wait and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And until the next one, you all go and have a good day, and this has been OK Gov Bear. Bruxism.